Hello. Today I will give a little insight into correlation. Our great mentor and teacher, Sergio Celibidache, he spoke about the real talent of a musician is in her ability to correlate. So what does that mean? So of course we need technical education as musicians. We need some things we have to understand, and this is very different from musician to musician. So some musicians are simply natural talents and others are very well educated and whatever. So the result can be very different and the influences can be very different and so on. But what about correlation? It is very important for us to know that there is what we call the automatic correlation window. That means each of us has the ability to correlate automatically, a very short space of time. It's very interesting that Paul Hindemith said that the real spontaneous invention in a melody is very short, only a few notes. But of course there are long melodies. So if there is a kind of immediate inspiration about a melodic fragment or a motive, so this is normally very short, that's true. And then to go on with it and to unfold it is another process. It can be from the beginning because it is very correlative from the beginning. But speaking about the automatic correlation window, when I go around in the city and I cross the street, I look to left and right and I cross the street because then I know that there is no car and no bicycle coming. So if I'm getting older and a bit disoriented, it can happen that suddenly I have to look twice. This is not a good sign, and we all hope that it will not happen to us. But this is that this automatic correlation window becomes even smaller, or we lose it even. And then we speak about dementia and such things. But normally we look left and right and we cross the street. And we don't have to think about it. We do it automatically. And this is everywhere the case. So we have this, for example, it's very typical that somebody spoke a long speech and then afterward we leave and we go down the street and we still have the last one or two sentences in our ear. Because this was the last thing and it is still there, automatic correlation of the last thing we just caught. And so this latest perception is still there until there is another impression that comes, and then we forget about the one before. And so if there are too many things happening at the same time, it may happen that we cannot correlate this just automatically. Then we have to be very concentrated, and it can even be too much. So what does all this have to do with music? When we are playing a piece, we always have small correlations. That means a short phrase, 2 bars, 1 bar, maybe 4 bars, that we feel belonging together, absolutely independent from how it is played. Because this automatic correlation works even if we do not correlate really. It is a gift we get from nature. And so this gives us the feeling, if we are not really totally aware of the challenge the piece presents to us, that we always get things together. But it's only short moments. And so what it really means to develop musicality is that we widen and widen and widen the window of correlation, that it's not anymore automatic. And then there are other challenges. Then suddenly, phrasing is not just as you like. Only if you like the right way. But what is the right way? It's not so easy to say. So that means, for example, when we have a little phrase opening and coming back to the tonic. So we all understand that we open also energetically and we close a bit again. So if it stops on the dominant, but maybe 2 bars later, and it's again a little relaxation. So if we do the same as the first time, we open and close, we open and close, we open and close, then we have several little windows, but they are not interconnected. So that means if we first come back to the dominant, it's a solution. If we first come back to the tonic, it's a solution. If we then come back to the dominant, it might be a solution, but not a solution, as much solution as the tonic. And then we have the relaxation, but more open, still tension there. And so if we go through the whole piece, we only have a real final relaxation when we come to the end of the piece. And so all these moments, which are articulated always in impulse and relaxation, but they build a long chain, like an arc, maybe we could say. That means we go up and we go up and we go up and we go up and we come to a climax, but always it's articulated and we come back and we come back and we come back. But of course there can be a kind of first climax, then it goes a bit back, then comes the kind of the second climax, goes back, then comes the large climax, the one climax in the piece. If the piece is just one unit, organical unit, there is always one climax that is the climax. And then we come back and there is another kind of climax, another kind of climax, and we come back. And finally we are at the end. And this process, which was very interestingly described by Celibidache in I go away and at the same time I come home. How do we, this is that meant if the end is in the beginning already there, and the beginning still is there when the end is there. So I'm going farther away and come closer. I'm going farther away and come closer. Always bound together. So that is correlation in music. And so if we think about, okay, I know the piece. I have control over the piece. So I'm now in minute 8 and I know how this phrase goes, how this phrase goes, how this phrase goes. I have everything there. I know every note of the piece. It doesn't mean that I'm correlating the piece as an organic whole, because this is an energetic process. And we can also say that behind the notes, which are the obvious side of the music, like all this flowering here I have around me, which is so beautiful. So this is all these notes and all these wonderful embellishments and all these things. Behind that, of course, there is the harmonic development, which is normally in larger steps. But behind that, there is the energetic process. And this is, we could compare it with a large snake, for example. So it is going like this and this and this and this and this. And in this case, it goes finally, doesn't go the same fast as all these notes moving. Sometimes in a choral, it might be the same. So the energetic process and the speed of the melody and all these things. So what is interesting, correlation in music is something we have to explore, is something we have to come closer and closer and closer. So we might not understand that it's necessary at all, because we always correlate, but only in short units. And so this automatic correlation, which is necessary to survive in the world. Of course, this is a great thing we need to live. But at the same time, it can be like a fog for us, because we think, well, we're oriented. We are very well oriented. We are very well oriented. It's like going around the corner to the left, going around the corner to the right, and behind there is a navigator. So we drive with the car, but we don't know where we really are. But we know every corner, and we know where it starts and we know where it ends. But we have no feeling for how far we are from the beginning, how far we are from the end, tension-wise. And that doesn't mean we can have everything like a graphic memorization. So we know the whole piece inside out, and still we don't know where we really are in the process of tension, of building oppositions, of confronting the worlds that are put in by the composer to build up, to shape the form from inside. And so what we need is to develop our ability to correlate and to correlate and to correlate. And this is something I've been working on for, I would say, around 45 years now. And of course, if you are interested as a musician in developing this ability, I can help you to find your way through this jungle of notes. And I think it is more necessary than ever in our time, where everything tends to be fragmentation. In composition, in popular music, everywhere we have the tendency to fragmentation. And fragmentation is finally coming to lots of automatically correlated things and then putting them together in some way, but not building up a large form. And so to be at home in the large forms, and the large forms start in early polyphony and they go until our time. But I would say that most of contemporary music is not conscious about large form. It's building large forms with combinations, but not with something that really goes through and is done in a way that you really have the feeling it cannot be done in another way. And then I might come finally to what I call the two totally different paths of music. So there is kind of what is most of the ritualist music, is in the Platonic sense that sounds are there to transport the listener, and of course also the musician, into some state of mind, into some state of feeling. And then in that state of feeling, it can go on for hours maybe, or also be very short. There is no form in the sense of it has to be correlated. You are just in an atmosphere. And lots of very good things have been produced and developed in that way. So lots of ritual music, of religious music, of dance music, of African percussion music, about the modern music, for minimal music, for example. So there is no form in that strict sense that it can just go from here to there. And then we have the form that comes from the song, where you don't put the listener into a state of atmosphere or of mind, of feeling, but where you unfold the expression that wants to come out from you individually. And then you sing and it unfolds, and finally it comes to an end where it feels now the song has done one circle around. And this is basically different. These songs just go until the tension is out. They build up tension and then tension is out. And so if it is just a melody, it cannot be very long. So it's different, for example, from religious singing in India. These things that repeat and repeat and repeat, they put you into a state of emotion. But the song, it is just like an organic process, like a flower unfolding, and then it comes to an end. And so from this, we have developed all these polyphonic forms in European music. And all these forms are really in a way that everything is bound to the beginning and to the end, and every detail is bound to the whole, and the whole is in every detail. And this is what we need to develop as classical musicians and in many other kinds of music. I am also sure that Indian raga music is not different from that. The only difference is that we, who don't understand raga music and who don't hear the micro intervals and who don't understand the very complex rhythms, complex metrical combinations, we have the feeling that this is just putting us into a state of emotion, of mind. But this is probably not true about raga, as far as I heard from the masters. So classical music is the same. We have to develop the ability to correlate. And so if you're interested, just contact me and we can go deeper into the details and of course, into the principles of all this. So wishing you all the best.